she conceived Jesus through the Holy Spirit, and she was the wife of Joseph. Mary had 3 children, and okay. Well, any corrections, Gloria's going to do the corrections. I had found that Mary had 3 children. Also, it is for you all to say question, or we can look it up in the Bible as well. Okay. And that she wasn't taught much about in the Bible after Acts 1. She was at the presentation at the cross when Jesus died. She also was the apostle, was with the apostles on the day of Pentecost, and that came from Acts verses 1 through 14. And the part that I guess I said I liked was that Mary was highly favored by God. Amen. And highly favored was being had grace. She was blessed with grace by God. And what else? Excuse me.
Much grace.
Much grace. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
What else? And it's also why I say this, why I like it, said Mary was favored by God, but she was not without sin. And so what I like out of that and took out of that is that we all can be favored with God. Even though we might have sin, God can still show us all favor. But she found the Savior for herself. She decided to find the Savior for herself. And I'm pushing it off to Gloria or whoever next. And you go ahead and
what I did learn out of Matthew 1:16 through 25 was Mary was the mother of Jesus, who is called Christ. And there was generations from Abraham to David. And she was engaged to marry a man named Joseph. But before they were married, he learned that Mary was expecting a baby. She was pregnant by the power of the Holy Spirit. And that's all I wanted to focus on.
Anybody else? Miss McClellan, since you're mother, would you like to go next?
Adoration of her is ageless, classless, raceless, and timeless. Each nation where the Christian message lives, think of both the Macedonian and the child. Her face may carry the features of the Southern Europeans in one great painting, the Ethiopians in another, and the Orient in another. We find great representation of the Madonna up and down Europe, Asia, Africa, North America, South America. In fact, everywhere that the New Testament has shed its light. Many times of praise, such as Mary of Mercy, Mother of Mercy, Mother most blessed, Queen of Heaven, Mother most pure, Virgin most powerful, and spiritual vessel, and have been bestowed upon her the angel Gabriel and her cousin Elizabeth said of her, blessed are these among women.
But she was a woman that had respect of herself, a woman who nobody could ever blame fault in her any way that you might say as of today. And I'm going to compare that because we don't have women like her today. Probably will not ever have women like her. But Mary was a bold woman. She stood where nobody else would stand. She had a blessing that nobody else would ever get because of her pure in heart and her faith and belief in the man that gave her the one blessing that no other woman got. It was to carry the child. And I think that if we all could just challenge ourselves to that point, the type of woman she was. Even though when she found out that she was carrying the child, she was like, at all said that, why you choose her? But she went through it all without complaint or any. And until that day when Mary had her baby, yet she still cared for him when he had to be taken away and when he had to go away because her father had assigned him an assignment. I wish that we could all be a person like her. She didn't fear because she had true faith in God. Her life was full with a spirit that none of us, we all proclaim to have in such a short time, but yet we're learning how to be women who had such stature as a woman called Mary. If we hadn't been pregnant and got pregnant in the day, we'd probably be in the people going, well, how'd she get pregnant? She ain't supposed to be nowhere. But Mary, people around her they were confused on how she got pregnant, but that was the one that was with her that helped her through it as well. So I guess the most important part of Mary for me was that she was a lady with no fear, with no doubt, because she had all faith in God and she didn't stretch it back like we may be doing today. Woman that had respect of herself, clothed herself in well and manner. She didn't expose herself, and that made me think that if we learn how to teach our children coming up today, women of today, because that's what we're supposed to be doing, teaching our kids how to dress, how to be a woman, how to react like a woman. So I think that's the most challenging part of me, was to know that we are afraid to do that because of the fact that we don't have enough, I guess, faith in ourselves. No matter what the challenge came before us, whether people liked it or not, we were still doing what God's work was. And that's what I got out of that woman that nobody can touch. With the highest glories, you could not be any better than she was.
Mary is the embodiment of one of the greatest and still unexplained miracles of the Bible. The virgin's birth. Because of this, she's unique in the history of women as is her son, who brought salvation to mankind.
Yes.
That I could say, but there were some things that we might not have known about Mary, and we should know. But Mary was the first to see Jesus take a breath, and she was the last to see him take a breath. She saw him take his first breath, and she saw him take his last breath. And she was standing near the cross where Jesus was her and her sister, and Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. And you can find that in John 19 and 25. But Mary comforted Jesus as he had entered in this world, and also as he left and returned to the Father. She devoted herself to being there for her son through birth, death, and beyond. There, as a mother and as a woman, more or less as a mother, you that are with mothers, that's what you do. You're with your child from birth, you're there through death, and you're there beyond. And that's what as a mother, as a woman of God, we're supposed to be there with God at all times, from the beginning to the ending. We should never step out and leave. Mary never stepped away from anything that Jesus did. She was somewhat like a helper to Jesus, because there was a wedding and they ran out of wine, and she went to her son and told him we needed more wine. Now, he didn't do it automatically, and I'll talk about that, but she was a woman of great courage and of great character. And then one of the other things that we may not have known about Mary, and Shirley said she found 3, and it might have been, but I found that Mary had 4 other sons after Jesus. And Mary in Mark 6 and 3, and it was a time when there was an opposition in regards to Mary being the Virgin Mary, the mother of Christ. They said in Mark 6 and 3, then they scoffed, he's just a carpenter, the son of Mary and the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon. And his sisters live right here among us. They were deeply offended and refused to believe him. So right there it tells us that Mary did have other children other than Jesus Christ.
And Judas was one of them?
I don't know if that's the Judas that you're referring to, because it didn't specify. It's not that Judas or Iscariot or whatever. That wasn't him. But she had 4 others. So Mary shines as a symbol of God's desire to use the obscure and the ordinary, because she was just an ordinary Jewish girl.
as some of us might say, a simple, plain Jane is what Mary was. What encouragement from this simple, peasant girl now stands as one of the most loved women of all time. All women of the Bible, through the service of God, should, and as us, when we're chosen by God, we should be like Mary. That's me, because God chooses all of us. There's a purpose for all of us. And when he chooses us, we should be like Mary. She was an humble servant of God. She was a woman of great courage and character. She believed in God and the angel Gabriel that came to her. You know, God speaks to us a lot of times, but we don't listen. And an angel in many ways can be your pastor, your sister, your brother. Then God can speak to others to speak to us, but we have to have an open ear and a discernment to know when God is speaking. And Mary, I feel like she had that. And but she was also instrumental in Jesus' life. She was a witness in Jesus' life. The Mary moments in the New Testament point to Jesus each and every time. She had a mission, and and her salvation was God. That was her mission. She had a mission, and her salvation was God. Her life was the witness to the glory of her Son, and we can't help to admire a woman like Mary, because to take the courage to do things that Mary did. And Sister Montgomery spoke on how she was to be betrothed to Joseph. Mm-hmm. And if some of us might have read in here, when Joseph found out, Joseph was about to step out and leave. He was not going to stay there. Mm-hmm. But he had an angel come to him and speak to him and told him, this all happened so that what was spoken by the Lord through the prophet would be fulfilled. And that's in Matthew 1, starting at 22. And it says, look, the virgin will conceive and bear a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. When Joseph awoke from the sleep, he did what the angel of the Lord told him. He took his wife. You know, sometimes we need to do that. We need to do what the Lord tells us instead of trying to do what we want to do. And that's what Joseph did. But did not have a marital relations with her until she gave birth to the son, whom he called Jesus. So, in other words, to me today, what we can learn from Mary is, let's remember to live humbly, step out with boldness like Mary. We can all be a part of God's remarkable story when we just open up our hearts and minds to know what his purpose is for us to do. Because we are God's chosen people, and he's chosen many, and we can have a special purpose as Mary did. So,
Yeah, the question is, can anybody...
Mary went through when her son was crucified. Mm-hmm. I can only imagine how gut-wrenching and how painful and how, she felt, and her pain. So a lot of times when we go through things in our lives, that are so painful, you just think about Mary, who had to witness what she witnessed with her son.
Didn't Mary have to? Didn't he not tell her not to be afraid? I'm thinking I read it because she was following him, and I believe he wanted to say, "Woman, go back" or something like that.
That in the end, I didn't get in the beginning. I said I was gonna do. I said I was gonna follow your will, but I done forgot right there because you say you're gonna be about your father's business. I didn't know when you was gonna start to step out and move out, but she eventually remembered it and she stayed with him all the way until his last breath. Yeah. And I say, stay in it with God. Sometimes you may not see it all. She was much grace, but everybody is much grace now because of Jesus. Now we do have a chance to see Jesus, see God for ourselves. We don't have to go see a priest no more. Yeah. Veil is ripped from the top to the bottom. You can go to God now because of what she did and how she was prayerful and diligent and stayed, prayerful behind the scenes. Yeah. She was a lady and she stayed behind the scenes. Yeah. She knew when to be there. She knew when to call him. The wine, the water went out. She went to him. She said, and he said, "Why are you asking me?" Y'all follow him and do what he said.
Yes.
You know, she didn't command him like you gonna do this, but she knew what he could do and everything. That's what she was prayerful about. You know, you just can't go up to anybody and say do this and that. You know, but she knew when to move, when to speak, when to back up, when not to say anything, when to ponder on it and stay and keep it in her heart, because she knew she was going to go through a lot. And I guess as mothers, you do go through a lot, because it said, you know, and it's going to pierce your heart like a sword. I mean,
Yes.
it's a blessing, and it's a I won't say it's a curse. It's a blessing, but it's a work.
Mhm.
It's gonna hurt a little bit with it, but it's a beautiful blessing. So
That was the feast of the Passover. You were trying to say what it was.
yeah, I'm trying to get
It's
there.
in Luke, and it's under Luke. Let me get to verse 2.
Yeah.
And the verse was 41. He went to the Jerusalem.
Yeah.
That was 41. That's
Thank
what you
you.
were trying to
I was trying to get there. But like y'all said it all, but I was just there.
Thank
I said,
you.
I throw it in my little piece.